going to record this. So, hello everybody, and welcome to frequently asked questions about the postpartum doula certification. My name is Darcy Sauers, also known as the Doula Darcy. So I have been a postpartum doula for about 10 years now and have just built a thriving practice and love this job and am passionate about helping other doulas help other moms. So I'm all about helping you help more moms. So that's why Krista and I decided to do this little series. So Krista, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Krista Maltais. I'm an advanced postpartum doula and advanced lactation counselor. I'm also a postpartum doula trainer with DONA International. And I have been working as a doula for more than 14 years now. And I also am the owner of Relief Parenting Respite and Resource Center in Hampton. And I, like Darcy, just truly believe that there needs to be more postpartum doulas out there in the world, and families need us, especially right now with all of the stress of our current world. So we're excited to be able to be here and answer your questions and help you on the process.
Yeah. So I was just, before you came on, Krista, I was saying one of the most common questions I hear is doulas ask, when, once you've started your training and stuff, when's the right time to create a website and like a social media profile? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think they need to wait until they're officially certified, they have that certificate, they're officially working before they can put that out there. But that is not true. I think the sooner the better. And you just be honest. Like I'm a trained postpartum doula. You can just say you're working towards your certification, but it's really important to get that up and running so that people can find you. And I was explaining how Google, for search engine optimization, the longer your website has been in existence, the better that is in Google's eyes in terms of how they'll show you in the results. So you want to get your website created as soon as possible, which brings me to my next point in terms of marketing. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty about certification, but put some effort into naming your business. And I have a blog post that I'll share right here with tips on how to name your postpartum doula business in terms of your marketing and memorability, but also search engine optimization, because I think that's a huge thing to consider. So I will post that in the comments below. But Krista, what do you think? What's the number one question you hear from people that are working towards their certification?
I think the biggest thing is, how do I get clients, right? It's like a big, broad question, like, okay, how do I get clients, right? And so, you can be the best doula in the world, but until people can find you. So really taking the time, like you were saying, to put your name out there, and to make those connections, that's going to be really critical to achieve the certification requirements to pass in your packet, and then also to get your 3 initial families, but then to build your business so that you can constantly be busy and successful. Right. I mean, thinking about a web page, thinking about Facebook, thinking about, again, just the in-face networking that people should be doing in their communities. That's, those are all those steps that people can really take to answer that question of, where do I get my clients? How do I get clients?
Yeah, I know. And so to like break it down and make it not seem overwhelming, I always encourage people to start your networking process with local birth doulas. I think that's kind of a good way to ease into it, and that can be a really great place to find those 3 certifying families. If you reach out to the birth doulas in your area, let them know you're coming up, you're training. If they have any families that are interested in postpartum doula support if you're offering a discount or whatever for these, your 3 certifying births, they might know some families who are interested. So start with the birth doulas in your area as that your way to get those 3 certifying families and any additional clients. Okay, so Jamie has a question. Jamie Rock Blow, who I know you know, Krista. She is asking if DONA has made any changes to the certification process due to COVID, which is a really good question.
Yes. And so my knowledge is that the committees, the certification committee and the organization at all levels on the board and whatnot, they're having a lot of discussions about, okay, what does this look like? How do we need to pivot? How can we make things more accessible? So they've made trainings online available instead of just in person. And I know that they are talking about changing the certification process and making more allowances for virtual support accounting towards certification. I don't know with definitive answer if they are like when they're allowing that, if they're allowing that. So when those decisions have been finalized and made through the board and the other organization committees, then it will be announced through the members connect through the email chains that they have. And as a trainer, I'll also be making sure that I go back to each group and let them know that that those allowances have been made. But as of this moment in time, I don't have anything with definitive answers.
But they're certainly working on it. I mean,
they want people to be certified. They want people to be out there. They want people to know that you've done the work and that you're available for services. It's just a matter of the logistics as a huge international organization of making sure that those changes can be implemented for everyone in all parts of the world.
Right. Yeah. So, which is no small feat, but I think a lot of people are getting frustrated because like you read the the requirements online, it seems very rigid, but I don't know. I think it's important to know that DONA is, and the other organizations are working on it and taking into consideration that there is a global pandemic and
absolutely.
So
yeah,
the bottom line is just keep going, keep working, keep serving, and
definitely.
And I'm sure, I think the next logical question is like, what, I'm sure the certifying organizations are going to be offering extensions and things like that. So you have more time.
Definitely. Yeah. I think I know for DONA, and I'm sure for other organizations, like you said, they want people to be certified. They want to, encourage their members to keep doing the work. And so it's just, as we're all in the world, just trying to make these adjustments very quickly, just trying to make sure that they're doing it in a way that's going to be able to be implemented.
Yeah. Awesome. So what other common questions do you get, Krista?
About the certification process, a lot of questions around the essay. And so the essay for DONA International really kind of is kind of a culminating part, and it can feel really overwhelming for people, I think, because if you've been out of school for a number of years, or writing was never your strong suit, or you're just not quite sure how you want to say something, I get a lot of questions about the essay itself. And what I like to remind everybody is really, again, it doesn't have to be a big, huge, scary thing, just breaking it down. And so the essay is between 500 and 1,000 words. And if you think about a 5-paragraph essay, right, where the intro and your 3 major points and your ending, that can break down to roughly 100 words per paragraph. So it's really not that extensive. But that's a huge part of why I just recently developed a program for accelerating the certification process, is to be able to work with doulas who have done their training and just need some extra guidance and a place to check in and some accountability to go through each component of the certification process, because things like an essay can really feel very daunting until somebody breaks it down. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think becoming a doula is sometimes very parallel to becoming a parent, right? Like it can just feel so exciting and so scary, and it feels so big. And when you have somebody as a parent, like a doula, right? And as a newer doula, if you have a mentor or just a group that can support you through it, getting those questions answered, it can, again, it breaks down those big, scary things to be more manageable.
Right. And I always say there's something a little magic about just joining a group or a program to get you going. And I've heard so many people feedback on this Dear Doula series that we're doing. They're like, thank you. That was like the inspiration I needed. It's so much just about staying motivated, staying inspired to get that momentum going. Mm-hmm. And I was actually being interviewed on a podcast the other day, the Thriving Birth Worker podcast, which is a really cool podcast. But she made the analogy that, like, when after you have a baby, you don't know you need a postpartum doula, but you need a postpartum doula. Like, you need that support because you have so many questions and you're questioning yourself every step of the way. And it's so similar. I don't know why I've never made this connection before, but it's very similar to when you're starting your own postpartum doula business. Like, you don't know the next step, or you intellectually know, but you need a little cheering on, you need a little support. So that's what's great about your accelerated program, to really get you over the finish line of getting that certification. And then, I also have that Postpartum Doula Academy, which is once you're certified and ready to work, that's a group program focused on marketing. But it's really like, to have that community with a shared goal is really powerful.
Definitely. And I think that's another question that I get quite frequently from doulas is, how do I connect and find other doulas, right? Like, how do I come up with these different collaborations or partnerships or whatnot? And it's something that obviously you and I, Darcy, have really done in so many ways over the years. And it's been such a wonderful thing personally and professionally to be able to have you and be able to rely, as a backup for our business and also just our work together. And so as doulas who are kind of coming into things, especially if kind of babies in the birth world have not been always where your focus has been, and if you're making a big shift in your career or whatnot, it can be hard to be like, well, where do I start? And it's like finding that tribe that we talk about, right, all the time. So again, go back to your training and see who is, members of your training group that you can still stay connected with. Reach out to them, reach out to your trainer. There's also, again, if you are a member of DONA International, there is the Members Connect group, and you can find different people within certain communities. So it could be based on your, if you're a birth or you're a postpartum doula, it can be based geographically, it can be based on so many different factors. And so those are also different places that you can go and start networking to find, again, your doula support and your doula tribe.
I always call you my doula bestie, and I think everybody needs a doula bestie. So yeah, so I think Facebook groups are kind of the best way to do that. If there's, a local doula group, sometimes like there's a statewide doula group, depending on how big your city you live in, or, maybe there's a citywide doula group. And then I just posted in the comments, I have a Facebook group for doulas called the Doula Village. So I just posted that link. And I know you, Krista, for every training that you do, you have a specific group of just the trainees, right? That's got to be a fantastic.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating to see over the years, because there are some groups that are, a bit more quiet, but then there are other groups and they have really taken it to such great new levels. Like, I have one particular group and I love watching them because they are very active, and they've even set up their own like weekly call to one another and really supporting one another, and they share a lot of resources. And I've had other groups that will do like a book share. And so again, like kind of to complete the certification, reading the different books and whatnot, that can again feel very daunting. So it is a really wonderful resource that hopefully is built into every training that somebody goes to is, that sense of community and that sense of partnership that can happen.
Yeah. One thing I've been talking a lot about lately is, when I teach my yoga birth method yoga classes and workshops, one of her key philosophies is in labor, movement is the key to progression. So like doing yoga poses and we all know walking, that's what keeps labor progressing. So it's the same in your business and your certification. Like movement is the key to progression. Like just take the next step. It's very easy. I hear this all the time about doulas being overwhelmed by all they have to do to get their certification in, or to get their business launched. And it's like, just write out the list of the steps and just take the next step. And, you cross that off your list and that gives you the momentum to keep going. So
just jogged my brain too about another question is, a lot of people will ask me, well, where do I start? Right. And I think this is something that, again, people can take a number of different ways. So some people will choose to start with the things that they feel most comfortable with. And so going back to the essay, some people will start with that right off the bat. So the essay is about the value of postpartum doula support. And some people are like, oh, you know what? I'm fresh off of my training. I know really clearly what I want to say and how I want to say it. And so they'll start with that. Other people are like, I want to end with that because I feel like I want to make sure that I've done all of the other things and I can put that information into my essay. And so helping to take some time to look through the material can be really important to figuring out what seems the most able to be accomplished. And that can really facilitate, like that you were just saying, Darcy, that momentum of moving forward, so you don't have to necessarily jump right into, I'm going to read every single book first and then go back and do something. Pick what seems like a task that you can accomplish and start with that.
Yes. And you can be working on all the things at the same time. Like that's one place I personally got stuck. I was like, okay, I have to read this list and then I have to find a breastfeeding class and then I have to write this essay, but it's better to just do it all at once, always have a book by your bed, and, find those extra little trainings, the breastfeeding one and, what the other classes, CPR, get those on your schedule. And, be reading the reading list in the meantime and, preparing for your in-person or virtual training. It's not, and the cool thing is, like you were just saying, there's no order. You can do things as they come up and as you feel inspired to do them. So,
Exactly.
Again, just taking the next step.
Definitely.
I get the question a lot about what to charge the families that you're using as you're certifying. What would you say to that, Krista? And then I'll share my answer.
I always like to remind people that you do not have to do your certifying work with families for free. If you choose to, that's entirely up to you, but it's not required to do it for free. So just to clarify that for people, I think is important. I also like to remind people that nothing is ever really free for you as the provider. And so what do you have to pay out as the doula to go to a family's house for free? So thinking about things like gas, tolls, parking fees, do you have to pay for childcare and so forth? So what are your costs for you to go to a family's house to go to work? Thinking about that sometimes reframes things. And then people say, oh, wait a second, I'm going to need to make X dollars with, my work as a doula in order to just break even going there. Right. So thinking about that, some other great resources are Doula Match. It's a really great website that you can see from a variety of different organizations and a variety of different doulas who are working towards their certification or who are newly certified or who are very experienced. So doulamatch.net is a great resource, and you can see kind of based geographically and what other people have for their certifications and levels of experience, what the range is for their charging. And that can also be a really helpful resource just to kind of get a sense, because what somebody may charge in rural New Hampshire is going to look really different than if you are in the middle of Boston. So, geographically there can be quite a range. So those are some of the things that I kind of start with in terms of where do I set my rates.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point, because so many people feel like, well, I can't charge a lot of money because I'm not certified, but it's certainly worth charging something, at least, or go for it if you have the confidence to charge a full rate. But I always encourage people to, if you're offering some kind of discount because you're certifying, ask that part of your payment is that they'll write you a testimonial, because that is huge as you're building your website and social media. Like if you can have some testimonials to add there, and that's kind of a great way to get paid for your services without, getting paid financially. So
definitely, bartering is a great way. I mean, I think bartering is something that can be a really helpful tool, right? So you're doing doula services in exchange for the experience, in exchange for testimonials, maybe even photos and getting pictures taken. Those are all things that, again, hold value just in a different way than financially.
Yeah. I just was talking to someone who I was like, you have hit the jackpot. She got set up with a family where the dad was a website designer. So they were bartering. He was going to design her website in exchange for their services. And I was like, that is like the stuff you dream about.
Definitely. I mean, even I've in the past, haircuts, working with somebody who's a hairstylist or whatever. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can, figure out, but as long, I always keep reminding people, do you feel valued, right? And there's the emotional value of things, and then there's the logistical value. Like if this is something that you want as your career and you're making a living off of, it's a profession what we're doing, and it's emerging, which makes it a little bit challenging sometimes because people don't have necessarily something to compare it to. But, we want to make sure we're valuing our work as doulas. We're valuing our profession. And we do that through monetary gains, right? And we want people, as trainers, as experienced doulas, we want people to be able to make a career out of this. We want people to be able to do as much work and make a living of it if that's what the path that they're wanting to do.
Absolutely. So another question that came in is what to do if you're working with a family that, and the partner isn't there during the time that you are with the mom, but you need your partner to fill out that questionnaire. What are some options for that?
Yeah, I would say that's why, so in the certification process, you have to work with 3 different families who provide feedback. And you need to have feedback from at least 2 other adults in the home, or 2 families that have another adult in the home. So it might not necessarily be the partner. It could also be a grandparent who's there, or a nanny who's there, or somebody who's there with the family that you can show as the doula you're interacting with, you're bringing them into that role, you're educating them, you're doing all the components of doula work with that other adult in the home. If that's not possible, then you could talk up front about, here's, again, when we're setting those expectations and those boundaries, right? This is a perfect time to have a conversation about, okay, I understand logistically you want to hire me on because your partner's going back to work and because they're not going to be there. However, as somebody who's working towards my certification, it's really valuable for me to be able to show this. Could we set aside some time and just have the conversation? And also, that's why you have the ability to work with more than 3 families and then choose the families that you're going to give those papers to and ask them to write the review from. So if it doesn't work out with every family, you do have other options. But I think it's a great way, again, of just vocalizing what your expectation is and what your ideals are as a doula as you're working towards your certification. And then it also gives an opportunity to really explain and to clarify how your role is unique and that you can support the partner and all the family members. It's not just about the birthing person.
Exactly, which is a huge, huge thing. So I always also like to just bring up the point of that's some people don't, it doesn't, I don't even know how to say this. Like when you're in the certification process, I think you're just so focused on crossing your I's, dotting your T's and getting certified. And then it's like, so for me personally, I finished my training and sent in my certification. And then I was like, okay, let's go. It was like, I thought pregnant people were going to start falling from the sky. And it kind of just hit me like, oh wait, I have to go find these clients. Like so I always tell people, like, there's barely any postpartum doula jobs you can just go apply for. You really do have to either join an agency or start your own business, and which is daunting, but it's super fun and it's amazing. And I say it's the best job in the world. And running your own business has its challenges, but you can also go to all your kids' soccer games and make your own schedule. And there's so many pluses. So I think the sooner people kind of get that in their head that you're building a business, and what that really means is marketing a business. And the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be. So if people are having questions about that, please reach out to me. I have the Postpartum Doula Academy, which is a group program. But then I also have an online self-paced class basically called Kickstart Your Postpartum Doula Business, which helps you with nailing the prenatal interview, what to actually cover on your first postpartum doula in-home visits. That's another question I get. You get your certification, you're like, wait, well, what do I do? What do I actually do? What do I say when I'm in the mom's home? So that is covered. And then 5 tips to get your next 5 clients. There's also a bonus section on getting your website started. So I will post that in the comments. And then Krista, tell us about your accelerated program for people that need that.
Happy to do that. I also just want to point out, you mentioned something where, I think as doulas, we come into doula work for a variety of different reasons, but most people tend to think about the work of being with the family, right? The holding the babies, the helping the moms, the, adjusting with dad, all of those types of things. But it is very much like you said, creating a business and a sustainable, profitable business, ideally. And so another tip that I want people to be thinking about and considering is, if it's not something that you feel confident in or that you want to do, there are other people who will help you do it. And that's where, again, your different programs that you've created, Darcy, or there are people who will design a website for you, or they will do the bookkeeping if you start getting a bigger business. I mean, there's so many different people who are out there, and that's their passion. Find them and having them do the work that you're not that interested in doing, or that you can, again, barter and trade service. I mean, there's so many different things, but as experienced doulas, that's the stuff that Darcy and I like doing, is we help people who are emerging in this new field, in this profession, find their way and see, okay, where do you really want to focus on, and how can you then bring in these other components or get this extra knowledge to be successful. So those are the kinds of conversations that I like to have in the accelerated program that I started too. So that's going to be starting September 2nd. And it's basically an 8-week class where, 90 minutes a week, I'm holding people accountable about, have you gotten this essay taken care of? Or what, let's discuss some of the readings. How are you getting your clients? What's that look like? And just really being thoughtful, going through the certification process so that by the end of our 8 weeks together, you've got all the components of the certification completed so that you can send off your certification packet by Halloween. And then, starting to really build up things from there. And so that's where I'm excited to kind of have that as a new option for families or for doulas to go and help families. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. As postpartum doulas, one of our things that we do is kind of model for parents and teaching them how to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And the same goes for starting your postpartum doula career. Like, you're going to need help along the way, and don't be afraid to reach out when you have questions or you need some help and need some support. It's like being a mom. Like, we're not designed to do this on our own. Like, we need, and you need help with, there's so many aspects of running a business that you can't do it all. So, and I think I speak for you too, Krista, like we don't want to see the business side and the marketing side and the certification details be the thing that stops you from serving and helping and supporting new families. So we are here. Reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram with your questions. If you have, reach out. We are here to help you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. And I haven't told you this yet, but Krista, I need to take next week off because I'll be out of town with no Wi-Fi. So, but our Dear Doula series will continue. So just stay tuned on Facebook.
Bye, everyone.